This is Worst Deaths Imaginable, number 46. And if you are claustrophobic, I want to give you a trigger warning, because this is an awful way to die. Hello, true crimers. This is the story of Mildred Bowman and Alice Wardle. Viewer discretion is advised. In 2005, Mildred was 62 years old, and Alice was 68 years old, and they were sisters. In 2005, the sisters were visiting Benidorm, Spain, and they booked themselves a room with 2 beds at the Levante Club Apartments. Now, these were Murphy beds, and if you don't know what that is, this is an example. Essentially, a Murphy bed will fold into the wall to give you space, and then you just pull it down when you're ready to sleep. Some of them have hollow frames like this, but at the Levante Club Apartments, the Murphy beds had a solid structure behind them. Now, the sisters, after a few days of vacationing, suddenly no one had heard from them. Communication just stopped. People put notes under the door to see if they would respond to them, but they didn't. Finally, after several days, the staff of the Levante Club Apartments would enter their apartment, and they uncovered a really horrific sight. The entire wooden structure behind the 2 Murphy beds had completely collapsed on top of the beds, and stuck underneath the wood structure were the 2 sisters, and they were deceased. And the findings would be something from a nightmare for me. Both women had a bunch of scratch marks on their hands, indicating that they were trying to push the wood structure up, but the structure was just far too heavy. They weren't crushed to death. They didn't die quickly. They were stuck under this structure, alive, for a bare minimum of 4 days. I read somewhere that it's basically like the equivalent of being stuck in an MRI machine. That's how narrow and tight the space was for them. So tight that they couldn't move. But there was just enough oxygen for them to breathe to keep them alive for several days. 4 or possibly 5 days. Think about that. Think about being stuck in a very narrow, small space for that long. Eventually, they would die of suffocation, but it was hell, and it was agony. It would be revealed that the structure was not installed correctly, and that's the hotel's fault, but they were cleared of all wrongdoing, and no one was held responsible. God, these poor women. That had to be an absolute nightmare. Ugh, I am so claustrophobic.